Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we continue with Part 11, The Foundations of Islamic Mysticism from the Adepts in the Eastern Esoteric Tradition by Manly Palmer Hall, Part 4, The Mystics of Islam. The Foundations of Islamic Mysticism. Located at the crossroads of the ancient world, the Near East was a veritable alchemistical laboratory in which elements of Asiatic and European doctrines mingled to form strange and unfamiliar compounds. Average members of religious organizations are seldom aware of the strange chemistry which creates faiths, crystallizes creeds, and formularizes dogmas. The story of religion is the account of numberless minglings of streams of human conviction, and all surviving creeds contain elements from numerous and widely scattered moral systems. In the Islamic complex of states and countries, the religion of Muhammad generated from within itself several important mystical sects. These sects, although dominated by the prevailing faith, found justification for existence by luminous explanations of obscure or controversial elements of the dominant faith. Sometimes these dependent sects inclined to be more materialistic than the parent religion, but more often they unfolded and enriched spiritual overtones and inclined to asceticism or strict observance. The Muslim is a devout person who keeps the letter of his creed more consistently than the followers of most other religious groups. But even the merchant is a poet in his heart and shares the Asiatic inclination to dramatize his spiritual convictions. Many strange forms of learning flourished in the Near East, and emancipated Christian intellectuals were perfectly willing to hazard their reputations and even to endanger their lives by studying with Islamic masters and dabbling in the magical arts of the Arabs, Moors, and Saracens. Among the most interesting of the mystical groups of southwestern Asia are the Druses of Syria and the Lebanon, and the Dervishes and the Sufis, who originated in the Persian-Arabian region and have extended their influence throughout the Moslem world. The origin and ethnological affinity of the Druses is as yet unknown, although they speak Arabic with admirable correctness. The main body of this group does not belong to the Semitic family. They like to regard themselves as Unitarians, and many of them are described as fair-haired, of light complexion, strong and well-made, and often as tall as Northern Europeans. At the present time, they follow in general the custom and culture of their Muslim neighbors. Most writers have not clearly distinguished between the Dervishes and the Sufis. John P. Brown, an authority on these sects, treats the two groups without any clear differentiation. By way of definition, D.S. Margoliouth writes, "In general, we may distinguish between Sufi and Dervish as between theory and practice. The former holds a certain philosophical doctrine, the latter practices a particular form of rite." Stanley Lane Poole, in his notes on the 10th chapter of the Arabian Nights, states that there is an order of Muslim dervishes called Sufis who make a profession of more regular and more contemplative life than dervishes in general, and many of this class have written books of spirituality, of devotion, and of contemplation. Mystical sects in general are motivated by the desire for the personal experience of spiritual reality. With similar, if not identical, objectives, the disciplines practiced to attain the enlargement and extension of consciousness are approximately the same, regardless of geographical distribution. Thus it is that the mystics are more inclined to be tolerant and to accept the fact of interreligious unity. It is rare to find an advanced mystic who is not aware that all faiths have the same objective, and broadly speaking, the same methods for the attainment of internal security. Mystical religious movements founded by sincere and enlightened persons, and long sustained by devout and dedicated members, sometimes fall into evil days. The tendency of all religions is to drift away from their foundations and to become involved in the materialistic ambitions of the masses. Few religions have endured for any great length of time without some measure of corruption. The faith depends upon the faithful for its vitality, and when the followers of a doctrine compromise its principles, and these compromises are in turn further compromised, the end is confusion. Mysticism represents a level of conviction difficult to maintain, and suitable only for those by nature sensitive and contemplative. So subtle are the values that they are easily obscured, and the degree of this obscuration is difficult to estimate. Research is further complicated by the syncretic structure of mystical convictions. Usually the underlying concepts are derived from so many sources that it is almost impossible to determine what constitutes the essential elements of the pattern. The study of Islamic metaphysics gradually leads to the conclusion that a marked change of world significance took place between the 10th and 13th centuries of the Christian era. Nearly all of the esoteric societies of the Muslim world developed within this period, and their leaders and founders appear to have been inspired by a common heritage of information. At this time, a group of schools arose in Islam involving elements of Platonism, Bactrian Buddhism, Syrian and Alexandrian Gnosticism, Orthodox Judaism, Unorthodox Kabbalism, Moslem metaphysics, Aristotelian philosophy, Sabianism, and Iranian fire worship. The careful and astute ordering of these elements into a compound of religious, political, and philosophical significance did not come about by accident, but by a thorough and careful plan. To appreciate this plan, the truth seeker must penetrate a maze of records and reports, prejudiced and unprejudiced, reasonable and unreasonable, always bearing in mind that the Muslim was a sincere person, not inclined to corrupt his faith, but seeking rather to expand its sphere of influence and perfect its internal parts. For practical purposes, therefore, it seems appropriate at this time to explore the mystery of the House of Wisdom in Cairo. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.